Welcome to Women Finding Clarity, the podcast that ignites your inner power and guides you on a journey to uncover the boundless potential of the universe in life and in business. I'm Pascale Cook-Fernandez, your host and life transformation coach. Join me each week as we align our energies, elevate our businesses, and thrive in every aspect of life. In each episode, we dive deep into topics like the secrets of raising your vibration, crafting irresistible offers, and amplifying your impact. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, this podcast is your compass to navigate the realms of limitless success. If you are ready to align your energy, elevate your business, and truly thrive, subscribe to Women Finding Clarity now and get ready to embark on a life-changing journey. Until next time, stay empowered and keep seeking clarity. And remember, the universe is abundant and success is your birthright. Let's align, elevate, and thrive together, one conversation at a time. Hello, and welcome to Women Finding Clarity. I'm your host, Pascale Cook-Fernandez. I am so excited to be with you this evening. The best part of my week is bringing you amazing guests and transformative content to improve your life and business. It truly is my honor to be here week after week. Do you ever have a moment where something just takes your breath away? I had one of those moments last night. My friend and I went to the gym together, and then we went out for food after the gym. When we came out of the restaurant, there was the most amazing full double rainbow. It was so bright. We both gasped and grabbed our phones to take a picture. As we were driving home, there were so many people outside taking pictures of the rainbow, and all I could think was how amazing it is that so many people are experiencing such a positive moment all at the same time. In a world where there can be so much to worry about, to get frustrated over, to be angry about, it's just nice to see that we can all still take a moment and allow the beauty of the world to just wash over us. That was the moment I allowed beauty and appreciation to wash over me. That was my rainbow moment this week. What was yours? You're going to love this week's guest. So just allow her amazingness to wash over you like a rainbow. Jeanne Collins is an award-winning interior designer who left the corporate world behind to find her true self through design and internal reflection. Her firm, JerMar Designs, works with executives and entrepreneurs focusing on projects that combine sophistication and balance with inner and outer wellness. Winner of the 2022 Luxe Magazine Red Award, she was also recently nominated as an HGTV Designer of the Year. She chronicles her journey and the approach that changed her life and work in her memoir, 2 Feet In: Lessons from an All-In Life. Without further ado, welcome Jeanne Collins. Jeanne, welcome to Women Finding Clarity.
Thank you so much, Pascale, for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
I'm really excited to talk to you today because I'm super excited for the book that you have published. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's life goals for me. So, why don't we just start there? Let's talk about the title of your book and how it came to be.
Yeah. So life goals, you got to write one. I never thought I would write a book, to be honest. So it's almost funny when I say I did. I'm like, really? Yeah. Um, so to take a step back, so I'm an interior designer. And I always had said, wouldn't it be nice? Most designers, we want a coffee table book. How cool would that be to someday write a book and have a coffee table book? And I kind of always said, writing a coffee table book would be great. But I said, I need a few more years to have a bigger portfolio, more of a name for myself, because I've only been in business for 4 years and I wanted a niche subject, but I always kind of threw it out there. And I got an email one day from someone talking about a free hour and a half seminar about how to write a book. And I kind of passed over it. And then it came up again. And I was like, I have a free hour and a half at that time that it was happening. Why not? Let's just say yes and see what they have to say. And by the end of the hour and a half, I had a whole book outlined, not about interior design, but about my life and a memoir and the lessons from my life. And so my book is called 2 Feet In Lessons from an All in Life. And it is a memoir. It reads like a cross between a self help book, a business book, meets a romance novel, is the best way to describe it because it's a little bit of everything. But I never thought I would until I really started to write down some of the lessons I thought could really help people because people always say I'm so inspiring and my stories are so interesting and they don't know how I accomplish everything that I do. And I kind of just took that angle like, wow, if I were to share some of my lessons and some of my stories with someone else, with the goal being to help inspire them to maybe make some changes in their lives and feel like they're living a better life, wouldn't that be a great thing to do? And so I did. After I had the outline after this call, I went and hired a book coach because I had no idea how to publish a book, and committed to writing every day between 5 and 6 o'clock every night. And I did. And then a year and a half later, I self published my book.
Wow. There's so much in everything that you just said. And so, first, I
Yeah.
mean, big props to you for listening to the universe, right? You got one thing piqued your attention like, "Oh, I could attend this little seminar. No, I'm not going to do that." Then doesn't it come around again and you're like, "Okay, I'm paying attention now." So for me, that immediately is, you know, where you should put your energy because it's the thing that keeps kind of nudging you or tapping you
Oh,
on the
yeah.
shoulder.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And everything that I have done since then aligns with that. If I listen to a podcast and there's someone, I listen to a lot of business podcasts and a lot of wellness podcasts, but a lot of business podcasts about being an entrepreneur. And if I hear something and it just sort of resonates with me, and then I go back and I listen to it again, I'll be like, huh, I'm meant to reach out to that company. I'm meant to talk to them. And that has led me down the most fascinating path, both personally and professionally, really listening to what the universe has to deliver and openly expressing it as well, like saying in my morning intentions, like, I trust the universe has my back and I am open to what's coming my way and I'm going to pay attention.
That's
It's life
beautiful.
changing. Like it really can be life changing if you pay attention.
Yes. And something that I really want to highlight that you just said are your morning intentions. Because imagine how different, well, you don't have to imagine, but for anyone who's listening right now, the difference in how your day can be versus setting your day up to be how you want it to be, right? And
Right.
that's all about intention.
It is. It is. And I write about it every morning. I journal about it every morning, what my intentions are, and also what would make today be a great day for me. Like, what could I do for myself to make today be a great day? And that could, sometimes that's dealing with a proposal for a client that I'm procrastinating getting done because it's a lot of work and it's boring. And I'm like, I just have to get to that, or dealing with my taxes, but other days it's, making sure I read for half an hour. And if I get that in, I write 3 things that I want to do to help make my day great and that will make me feel good at the end of the day. Like today was a good day.
I love it. What were your things for today to make today a great day?
Today a great day. So so I do have to send a letter to the IRS about something
Womp
related
womp.
to, like, yeah, right? Wah, wah, right? LLC versus S corp paperwork that they want. I've kind of was said I was going to do it over the weekend and I didn't do it. So I was like, okay, you got to get started on that for today. I had that for today. I also had cooking something really healthy for dinner because that would make me feel really good. And then also feeling very present. So sometimes my intentions are related to that. So just making sure I'm really present with today. And I find a lot of times if I have a lot going on and I'm really busy, reminding myself to just stay present with today. And there are never enough hours to get everything done, and just stay present with today and what's happening with today. And, staying present when I talk to you instead of thinking about the 25 things I need to do after I'm done with you between 10 and dinner. So that's one of my favorites that I use a lot, is staying present.
I love that. And it can be very hard to do because it's so easy to end up in the spin without even realizing it. The long to do lists or everything that has gone wrong or everything that could go wrong. And
Yeah.
just stepping back and saying, let me just be in this moment. Let me just be in today
Right.
and taking it little by little.
Yeah, and that I find that helps me stay more grounded, and just more calm in general. And it's I always have a really long to-do list, that's always right next to my computer, and even though I have that, I will always pull out of that little things that I feel like, "Okay, if I accomplish those today and I just focus on those things, then I can feel like I was present and positive and got those things done," because the to-do list can be so long, and I'm no different than most people. I'm different in the sense that I run multiple businesses and they're in different subjects. Plus I'm a mom and I have a house and I have myself and all these other things, but we all have, all women especially, I feel like we all are juggling so many balls all the time. And it's very easy to feel like you're failing because you're not succeeding at any one of those balls at any given time. So I try to break it down to, staying present for today, and what makes today good. And if I accomplish this today, how will I feel like today was a good day? And tomorrow's another day. We can push, can only do so much.
I feel like you are such a balance of a go getter and a free spirit at the same time. Like,
Yes. Ironically, yes. Which is not like, I'm very type A. But at the same time, I'm very like, there's always work. And I live by the motto, and I did this. I got fired in 2020, right before I turned 50. And I realized that work was ruling my life. And so I changed my approach and my mindset around it. And I fully live with a life work balance approach. And life comes first, work comes second. We need work in order to make a living. However, work can't happen at a cost to life. And so I make time every morning to journal, to meditate, to even spend time on Instagram for the business, because that's what has to happen, and to exercise and read. And I make time for all these things. But at the same, because if I don't feel like I'm living and all I'm doing is working, then, the week is tough if that's what you're doing. Doesn't mean we don't
yeah,
work. I don't work hard. I do. I work hard. I work all the time. I work every day, but it's just a different mindset around making sure I'm choosing things that make me feel like I'm truly living my life, and that I'm truly present and here and making the most of my life.
that's just so delicious. Every bit of that is
Thanks.
so
Thanks.
delicious.
Thanks.
So, you mentioned losing your job in 2020, and that was kind of going to be my next question was I know you came from corporate. And so this part of you that is more in the moment and allowing and being intentional, I don't feel like there was necessarily a place for that in corporate. You can tell me.
Oh, yeah, there's no place for any of that
Yeah.
in corporate. None, none whatsoever. But, yeah, so I spent 22 years working in advertising sales, and I worked for a public company, and I ran a sales team. And so essentially, I would tell people I report to Wall Street, and that is really what I do. Wall Street is my boss, and I am only as good as my last quarter and the numbers that I put up the quarter before, and the numbers that I'm about to put up in the current quarter. And so that does not leave a lot of room for, intention, life coming before work, because work is first. It's always there. It's this huge dark cloud over your life when you're responsible for that. And so the life that I live now is so drastically different, from that life that was very dictated by numbers and Wall Street, and how successful I was in delivering those numbers made a huge impact on my company at the time. And so that's a lot of pressure, and that's a tough way to be living life.
As you were saying it, I felt my chest tightening up. I had to put my hand on my chest and take a deep breath because it just feels all wrong.
It does, it does. We had to report numbers every Thursday night, and I can't even tell you the amount of stress I was under all day Thursday waiting for my team to provide all the information so I could then roll it up and deliver it to, to the leaders of the company every Thursday. And it's like the pressure that happens every Thursday night was terrible. And now in my life, Thursday night is date night. We go out to dinner every night on Thursday night. And I'm like, it's like the energy of a Thursday for me is so drastically different than it used to be. I used to dread Thursdays and I dreaded Sundays too because we always had reports that were due Sunday night and I would spend half of Sunday working. So I never embraced a Sunday until I got fired. And I remember my first Sunday and I texted a friend of mine who also worked in corporate America. I said, I cannot even tell you what it's like to be present on a Sunday and embrace the day. It's like it's so freeing. I felt like there was this huge weight on my shoulders that had been removed. It was crazy. It really was wild.
So beautiful. And you don't necessarily, you're stressed out in the moment, when you're living all that, but that was your life, right?
Right.
And so how could it be different? And, the universe just said, oh, let me show you how it's going to be different, right?
Right.
Your time here
Let
is
me
up.
drop you off a cliff so that you can figure it out and start paying attention here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Grow your
Uh-huh.
wings or crash land.
You got it. Yep, we're gonna do it the hard way and drop you right here so that you can figure out who you're gonna be and what you're gonna live your life like.
Mm, 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 mm.
Mm.
So, what do you mean by an all in life? Let's talk about that because that is just such a hot concept.
Yeah. So when I was writing my book, I actually, when I was almost finished with it, gave it to a friend of mine to read at a first glance. And he came back and he said, you go all in with everything you do. And I said, I know what a lot of people do. He's like, no, you do it differently. And the way that you do it is not the same as how anybody else does it or how most people do it, let's say, or a lot of people. He said, you make a decision and you just plow forward and you don't second guess yourself. And it's that pivotal moment when you make the decision and then you close the door and don't let yourself sit in self doubt and wonder what if and wonder about your decision. You make the decision, you close the door and you move forward. And it's just like you get to the fork in the road, you choose right and you just go right. And there's no like, well, maybe a couple steps backward. Um, and he was right. And he was right. And when I really thought about it, I've been divorced twice. I'll use my second divorce as an example. I got divorced when I was 6 months pregnant, and, most people don't do that. Yeah, exactly, that's kind of
No, they
crazy.
don't.
Yeah, no, getting separated when you're 6 months pregnant is definitely a whole new experience. Um, but we were struggling, we were having problems, we were having issues, we were going to therapy, and a friend of mine I was talking to a friend of mine about the situation and that I just didn't know what to do, and she said to me, she said, "In 2 years, where do you see yourself?" I said, "Oh, we'll be divorced." And she said, "Then what are you waiting for? Why are you waiting for 2 years ahead of you just because you feel like getting divorced when you're pregnant is not what you should be doing? If you know this relationship isn't gonna last, what are you waiting for?" And she was right. And then the next day I announced I wanted a divorce and we just moved forward and that was it. And there was no second guessing that because I said to myself, if I can say that now, about 2 years from now, she's right. What am I doing? And writing my book was the same thing. As soon as I saw the outline of the book right there in front of me, I was like, okay, I'm going to write a book. I committed to writing a book. I hired a book coach to help me understand the process, and I committed to writing a book, writing every single day for an hour every day. And so everything that I do, when I say I jump 2 feet in, really the part that's so important about that, because I do jump all in and lots of people do, but it's the mindset part behind it, which is I don't allow myself to go back and second guess myself. And I just trust myself and I trust the universe that I will get to where I need to go if I'm making smart, educated decisions that I think are in my best and highest good. And the path there might not be the way I see it at the time that I do it, but just trusting myself and trusting the universe will guide me to be making those best choices for myself. And that's the part that I think is so unique is the mindset part of it that I've learned. I talk about how we all have this like bird that sits on our shoulder and like talks to us all day long. And he or she is really very negative. And so I've been very successful at learning how to quiet that bird. And I think a lot of people can't. And the fear that they have of the unknown stops them for jumping all in to different things and for trusting themselves. And I've learned ways to change that for myself and to change that narrative. And that's what I share in my book, are a lot of the tips and tricks that I've found that have worked for me. And that's what's worked for me. But if it's worked for me, maybe some of it or all of it can work for somebody else.
Fantastic. Just fantastic. You know, what I talk to my clients about is using their life's PhD and pulling forward all the lessons they've learned along the way
Right.
to help make their businesses more profitable. And so let's delve a little bit into your life's PhD. Have you always been this self assured and confident with your decisions? Or is that a skill that you've had to develop along the way?
Oh, I had to develop it. When you read my book, the first half of my book, you find out that I'm like an incredibly insecure person. I'm also by nature an introverted person, but I live an extroverted life, but I'm actually an introverted person. So I was an introverted person living a very, public, um, extroverted type A personality running a sales team, and having to be social all the time. And now I live a very public, extroverted life, speaking. But I do actually love that part of it. It's interesting when you're doing it on a different subject. It's amazing how different it is. But no, I was not raised with any self-confidence at all. I felt terribly about myself, and didn't really think that I had a lot of self-worth at all. So it was actually a lot of work, to get to the point of where I am now. And that's what's so interesting because that's woven throughout the book and the ebbs and the flows of how I didn't have that confidence. And so, for example, when I was writing the book, there was a period when I was writing the book where I felt really depressed, and started going back to therapy and started taking medication again. And I would be driving down the road and would just start crying for no apparent reason. And here I am writing a book about the fact that I'm living my best life. And then here it is, folks. I'm living my best life. This is it. Come drink the Kool-Aid with me. You want to do this too. Yet here I am in my therapist's office in tears. And what I realized by that process is I got through that and I was able to change my mindset and I was able after 4 months, like I really came out of it. But during that time, I stopped writing because I didn't feel like, how can I possibly be telling people that this is my best life? But my therapist had said to me, she said, it's really important that you actually include this part of your life into the book because you are human. And what this shows is that you can't be sunshine and roses all the time. And just because something brings you down, what it is what tools do you have to tap into and what are you doing for yourself to get yourself back out? And it doesn't make you less worthy or a less valuable human being, or it doesn't make your strengths all of a sudden weaker. It just makes you human. And so I do talk about it in my book, that, yeah, I am living my best life, but my best life also had a stint of some pretty dark, dark days there for a while. But that's okay. That we're all human. It can't be perfect every day. You just can't, because
No.
when you put that bar that high, it's too hard for us to constantly feel like our own cheerleaders and have this level of self-confidence that's like ironclad that nothing's going to hurt us. That's not true. We get hurt. We're human. You have to have emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's part of the human design is all of the emotion that we go through. And if we don't sometimes feel sad, how do we know how wonderful happy
Right.
feels?
Of course. Exactly.
Right?
You have to have the spectrums.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
Mhm.
feel like that is what makes you so approachable is the fact that you are living your quote unquote best life, but you also have bad days. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that just makes you more relatable on a human
Yeah.
level, person to
Yeah.
person.
I think so. I think so. I've had people say that about my book that, I definitely, the way I talk about my life, I make it pretty relatable, in different stages as well, because I'm just really honest about it. And it was an interesting choice that I had to make when I had to write the book was, how honest and how vulnerable to be. Because there's some things in there that, I have family members that are not happy about some of the things that are in my book. But I made the choice when I first started writing it, when I was about 3 chapters in, I was like, "You know what? If I'm not willing to be fully honest about all of it, everything, and vulnerable about everything, then my goal of trying to help someone through my story means I only wanna help someone through, like, portions of my story." And it's like, I don't wanna be a social media person where it's just like, "I'm only gonna show you the good, and, behind the closet, there's this." It's like, no, you have to be willing to talk about the mistakes you've made, talk about the errors that you made, talk about the times you didn't know how to do something, and to talk about the times that you didn't do something that well. And I just think that helps the reader and the audience and the listener to be able to really learn, because we don't wanna learn from someone who's so perfect that it seems unattainable to us.
Yeah, it seems unattainable when there's just too much perfection, and you don't want to make someone else feel less than, right? Because your whole goal with your book is to show people that you can go through it too and come out on the other side and all of that goodness. But if I'm reading your book or I'm following you on social media and everything is always perfect, I'm just going to feel hopeless.
Right, right. Yeah, you're gonna feel horrible about yourself. Right, yeah. That doesn't
Yeah.
help someone else's self-esteem come up. And by me talking about the fact that, you know what, I can talk to you about the beginning of my book, and I talk about how low my self-esteem was, and how low I valued my worth, and what I attached my worth and my value as a human to. And they were really shallow things. So, it's a process, and we're never done. Like, I'm constantly working and reading, and everyone's like, "You are always reading self-help books." I'm like, "What do you think? Like, there's always more to learn." And there's so many people who've had so many cool experiences in life and learned so many valuable things, that to be able to read about someone else's life and capture something from their experience without having to experience it myself is so empowering and exciting.
You know what's so interesting about what you just said is that I feel like that is so relatable to so many people. I was asked to write a chapter in a book for a friend. Her name is Laura Cook, and the book is called Leave It All on the Dance Floor. And when I read the other women's stories that were contributed to the book, I apologized and I'm like, Laura, I kind of feel like I'm letting you down. Like maybe my chapter isn't as good, or I haven't gone through the tragedy that some of these women have
Right.
gone through. And this was a conversation we were having on the podcast. And
Yeah.
she said, okay, well, I haven't told you this yet, but your chapter is actually the anchor for all of it, because your chapter is all about following your instincts and listening to that little voice. And I almost started to cry
Right, right.
because
It's
as
amazing.
human beings, our brains tend to lean us toward not enoughness
Of
or
course.
scarcity.
Yeah,
And in that moment, it was just stark in my face. Like, you didn't have to go through tragedy to be a connector
right.
or
And
to
to
be
have
an uplift.
value, to your point, you're a PhD of life. And so just because you don't have a PhD in whatever the subject is, that doesn't mean that your PhD in life is less valuable. It can be even more valuable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but
Absolutely.
it's hard to stay in that space, but congratulations to you, because she's right, because you're relatable. You're a real person and you're relatable. Sometimes when you see people and it's, you read their bios or their bios before a podcast and you're just like, "Whoa, okay. You have like 3 PhDs and you are the head of the chair of this nonprofit and you run this company and that company and all these other things," and you're just like, okay, it's like, "Oh, what's my resume?" It's like, my daughter's 17 ending high school, and it's like to get into college, these kids, their resumes are outrageous. Like, if you haven't already started your own company by 17, what's wrong with you?
Mhm.
But that pressure is so crazy because, like, who's to say that that is the only path forward for someone to be interesting or valuable or have something to contribute to society? It's not. We've created that.
It's not. And we've 100% created that.
Mhm.
And I feel like that could be a whole podcast episode on its own.
Oh, yeah.
But, I've got two in college and then one who's just finishing high school now. And he's just like, I don't know. I don't know what I want to do with the rest of my life.
Right.
I'm like,
And
buddy,
that's
you don't have
okay.
to
That
know.
should be okay. Who's to
It's
say you have to know by
okay.
17 what's going on? I mean, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
They barely
absolutely.
they barely are scratching the surface on who they are as human beings.
Yeah, exactly. Their brains aren't even fully developed yet. And I mean, look at you. How old were you when you left corporate and started your own business?
50, 49 going on 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. And not to say that those other years weren't valuable. They were very valuable. And it happened at the right time. I had someone ask me the other day, "Do you think the timing was right for when you got fired? And do you think if it had happened 5 years earlier, you would be where you are now?" And I said, "No, the timing was really pivotal in my life, both mentally and, physically and in the timeline of my life, that it made me think about my life differently than I think I would have 5 years prior. I would have just gone and gotten another big corporate job and would not have thought twice about it."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
Amen to that for divine timing. And,
Yeah.
as an energy healer, one of the things that I talk to women about is feminine and masculine energy, right? And so in this time in midlife, it's very stereotypical for a man to have a midlife crisis because masculine energy is go, push,
Mhm.
succeed, and
Yeah.
corporate is very masculine.
Very.
Feminine energy at this time in midlife is an awakening.
It
It's
is. It's so
allowing.
interesting that you say that. I love that analogy because it's true. Yes. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very different. It's
Yeah.
a
And
very
that's what
different
I'm,
mindset and viewpoint as to how you also tap into that energy and what does it mean and what do you do with it. That's fascinating. I love that.
and I feel like in listening to you and, about your book and your business and your corporate life and all of that, the goal is to have a balance of feminine and masculine energy. And you appear to have that balance. That's what I'm getting off of you is that you're very balanced. You can go succeed, do all the things, but you're also very much tapping in and allowing and listening and awakening. And it's just beautiful. So, I mean, I want to say congratulations, but that's not even the right word. I guess it's more just, I'm so happy you're on the podcast so other people can experience what that looks like and feels like.
Right. Yes. So thank you. I think you're right because I still am very type A and am constantly coming up with new business ideas or new things that I want to pursue and all of this. It's like I have to be reeled in by all of my coaches and the people that I surround myself with all the time to be like, okay, wait, can you just go over here and focus on these existing businesses and get them to grow before you go start talking about incorporating a third one? Um, and so it's very funny because I am very much like that, very masculine driven, et cetera. But then there's a whole other side of me that is much more in tune to my feminine side. And it's interesting you talk about energy because I talk about it in the beginning of my book, that I hope my book and my story is not necessarily about me. And I specifically say that I want it to be more about the energy that I represent and the energy that I can show people is possible, much more so than it is about me personally. 'Cause
Bravo,
that's a
you did
gift.
it.
That's a gift. That's a gift if we can show people what's possible, and it isn't just about, "Okay, my life looks like this in this little box, and this is what I do for a living, and this is where I live," and all the little, details of my life. It's more about the energy and the way that I live my life and the mindset around that and the practices that I have in my life that I think are what I hope to show people and hope to have them take away from my story.
Yeah. What I'm taking away is that it's less about what you do and it's more about who you be.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a gift.
So, how can people find your book?
My book. So my book is called 2 Feet In: Lessons from an All-In Life by Jeanne Collins. It is available on Amazon in every format. There's a hardcover, a paperback, a Kindle book, and anywhere you would buy an audiobook, it exists as well. I did record my own audiobook, so you can listen to me for 5.5 hours, which I'm actually told is a pretty good experience. So they can find it there, and I encourage everybody to follow me on Instagram. I'm very active on Instagram, which is under my business handle. So it's at JerMar Designs. So JerMar_designs on Instagram. And from there, you can link to my websites, to my blog, to my book, all things about me live there.
Beautiful. And all of that is in show notes. So it's an easy click and go. And before we close out, I just feel like it needs to have a light shone upon it. Let's talk about what Jermar means.
JerMar. So JerMar, JerMar with the J and the M capitalized. So JerMar, those are the first 3 initials of my father and my stepmother, who are my parents, and who've been so influential in the person that I am, especially my stepmother. She's the reason that I even know what mindset is or the universe is. And so it's Jerry and Mary. And so I named my business after them. And the business is expanding. Right now we have JerMar Designs and JerMar Publishing, but we are expanding to the House of JerMar, which is a wellness lifestyle platform for women, to empower women to tap into their inner powers and really live their best lives, whether that be through their interiors or through how they treat themselves or their mindset. So
So
it's cool to see it, and my stepmother has since passed away. So it's cool to like just kind of see her legacy with trying to connect and really feel like you're fully living, and to see me, embracing that every day with everything that I do and try to gift back to other people. So thank you for
and
asking.
I truly believe that she's guiding you all along the way.
Thank you. I do too. It's special. I'm blessed.
Absolutely. Jean, this was an amazing conversation. I thank you so much for being here. Everyone needs to grab a copy of your book because it's real life.
Thank you. Thank you, Pasquale, for having me on. I loved talking to you. Your energy, amazing. Oh my goodness. So fun. So
You can
thank
come
you.
back anytime, my friend.
Thank you.
Jean is such an inspirational entrepreneur. I have a feeling she has lots of rainbow moments in her life too. Be sure you are always on the lookout for your rainbow moments this week and watch how many happen to show up in your life when you're looking for them. I invite you to join our private Facebook community, Connection and Clarity, to share your next rainbow moment. There's a link in show notes to join. Remember, the universe is abundant and success is your birthright. Let's align, elevate, and thrive together, one conversation at a time. Good night. Thank you for being in our Women Finding Clarity community. If you're enjoying this podcast, please consider leaving us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite listening platform and share it with someone you know so they can find clarity from the conversation as well. Remember, the universe is abundant and success is your birthright. Let's align, elevate, and thrive together, one conversation at a time. See you next week.